Hi, the YouTube. I am, for the second time, attempting to use the vacuum pump. I received this for my birthday from my dad about 2 years ago, and I'm lazy and finally got around to it. So we are going to be making an ashtray for my mother-in-law, and in this we're going to be using clear pour epoxy hardener along with the epoxy resin. Now this one right here is part A, and that's part B. Our goal is to do a 1-to-1 ratio when we do our initial pour into the beaker. Little silicone thing you see there to the left. I'm just getting my mold in order, and right here I'm pulling out some dye to see which color I'm going to use. And I did ultimately end up going with a purple. And I found some little silver flakes that I also am going to be using. Definitely did not come out how I wanted it to. They are extremely flaky, and it was a little bit windy outside, so I think using it in a more controlled environment might have been easier. Also, maybe using tweezers to place them instead of using my hands. But, this is the first attempt at using a lot of these items, and, the goal is to obviously improve over time. So, I'm just cleaning off the mold here. It's going to be the ashtray. And right here, I noticed that my silicone beaker was definitely used and abused, not cleaned out correctly. So I'm opening a new pack here. That way my pour is nice and clean. And we ended up going with a light purple. I decided to fast forward it so I could spare you guys the time. But once I get this pack open, we are good and ready to go. So here is the light purple that we will be using. And I'm super excited. I don't know how many drops I'm going to need to use, so we're definitely going to figure that out. And I think at this point we're done fumbling around and we can actually start the pour. So I'm grabbing right now part A. I'm going to measure it to, I'm thinking about 30. I think these are milliliters. I'm actually not sure the unit of measurement. All I know is it has a line and it has numbers. So we're going to put it to the 30 line, and the first one's actually a little hard because it comes out pretty thick, the epoxy resin. However, the hardener is a little bit easier to use, but we definitely need to do a lot of cleaning up here as we go because otherwise it is just going to be a mess, as you can already see the drips on it. Now I did pour a little bit too much, so we definitely need to pour some back. And thankfully this was the first pour, so we can actually put it back in the container. Whereas if you screw up your second pour, you're kind of SOL. So better to get it right the first time. Like I said, the first pour is a little bit more challenging, so it's nice that we can put that back. Whereas the second pour, you just gotta wing it and hope for the best now. And right here, I'm a little bit still over that 30 mark, so I'm going to put a little bit more back and try to get it as close to that 30 as I can. Then from there, I think we nail it when we do our second pour here. Now, as I said, we're going up to that 30 line the best we can. I think we nailed it. So we're going to go ahead and cap this one. Like I said, got to clean up as you go. And we'll be on to the epoxy hardener. And I will admit, I was a little bit nervous because, like I said, you only get one shot at this one. So I was just trying to make sure that I get it right the first time. Now with this pour, what's funny, I forgot this actually happened. The foil from the cap actually came into the beaker. So, that was fun to kind of pull out. But once we got it out of there, everything was fine. And I think I nailed the numbers pretty nicely. So we want to do another 30 milliliters or whatever the unit of measurement is. And what's funny is I actually didn't realize until just now that foil had gotten into the pour. I thought it was just a big blub that came out. But yeah, not so much. So I have my little trash can started with the silicone beaker that we didn't use. So now it's time for mixing. And as I said before, we wanted to get it up to that 60 line. And I think we nailed it pretty good. So we're mixing. And here's a little sneak peek of what's to come. I do live in the desert, and I may or may not have collected some scorpions. one of which is absolutely huge. The other two you can't see in that bowl there, but those are definitely babies, definitely on the smaller side. I've been saving the big one for I'm not sure how long, at least 2 years, and I have no idea what I'm going to do with him. That big mold in my hand, I'm probably going to use that to put him in, but I feel like that's too boring. However, in any case, it does not fit inside the vacuum pump, so if we do decide to use that mold, we're going to figure out a different method to get all the bubbles out, which, by the way, is the main reason for using this vacuum pump. I've noticed my resin projects in the past have had a lot of bubbles. I have tried to use different heating methods to get these bubbles to come out while the resin is curing, but nothing seems to do as well as the vacuum pump. Now I started by adding 3 drops of the dye, just to add a little bit more later because I wanted more of a defined look to it. And this mold is really cool, actually. I like how it has those little divots for, cigarettes or, what have you. And this is my attempt at using the little flakes of silver. So, like I said before, in hindsight, I definitely should have used tweezers, and a little bit of wind going on definitely didn't help either. So, I did what I could, and, we'll see how it turns out. As you can tell, I just ended up throwing it inside of the mold and putting it more or less where I wanted it to be. I wanted it a lot more around the rim, but, we got what we got. So I will start the initial pour, and it turns out it wasn't enough. 60 was not the right number, but I think it did good for the initial pour. I do have a video that I will be stitching at the end of this, so I'm not going to do one of those come back tomorrow. You'll get to see the whole process in one video. So I'm scooping it out here, making sure I got all the goods. And as you can tell, I am super focused, trying to get as much of that silver flaking in there as I can, and doing away with whatever flaky bits don't belong. Now, here is how she's looking. Pretty solid if you ask me. Clearly need to do one more pour because you can definitely see the bottom portion of it. But I think that definitely is going to help. After playing with the vacuum pump a little bit further after this video, I do realize that it was probably better for me to do lesser of a pour, because when the vacuum pump is actually running, the resin does need room to expand to get all the bubbles out. Now, the one YouTube video that I saw before I started recording this said to keep this number at 25, so that was my goal for the whole time. If you notice, I was fumbling a little bit with those gauges to begin with. I definitely have it down to a science, I believe now, as far as like the air intake goes and the pressure release valve. Now, what I find pretty neat is you can actually see the process of the bubbles actually being extracted from the resin itself. So I had to run it through the pump a couple times, and it actually becomes clear in the end. And this is going to be fast forward to the next day. We have it all solid, and it's time to add our top pour. So I did decide to add a darker purple to the base of it, and honestly, at the very end, you can't really tell the gradient change of color, but I still like how it turned out. Now this process is going to be the exact same as we did our initial pour, so I'll go ahead and fast forward it for you guys. That way we're not going over the same thing, but you get to watch it happen still. Now this time around, I went to the 20 mark line of both pours, amounting to 40 total. And like I said earlier, we used a little bit darker of a purple, trying to get more of a deeper look. Now I'm super glad that when I tried to do this, that plastic bit fell outside of the resin, because pulling that out would have been an absolute pain. Now I went ahead and slowed it back down right here for you guys. That way you can see the miraculous pour that we're about to do. You can definitely see it being a darker purple as it flows into it. And I definitely have a photo at the very end to show you guys the final product as well. Pour was nice and easy. Again, you can tell I'm super focused, trying to get every last drop out. And now we're ready to put her in the vacuum pump. So super careful going in, and the way I was doing the toggles here was keeping that red valve shut, turning on the pump, slowly easing that green one open, turning off the pump, releasing that red valve, and then repeating that again and again. After playing with it a little bit further, I realized I can leave the pump running, slowly open that green valve, and then just toggle the red valve over and over until the resin is bubble free. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, here is the reveal. Here is the unveiling, ooh, look at that shine, baby, of the ashtray. Definitely sharp around the edges. I think I'm going to take a nail file and file it down so they're not sharp. Plus some of the edges are kind of, you know, popping forward a little. Here, let me do this so you can actually see it. Ooh, ow. Oh, she's very, very thin right there, but it's acrylic. It doesn't need to be perfect. Look at that. That's cool. And she's clean. Very nice. Yeah, see, that's what I mean right there by sharp edges. You can see a bunch right here. So I'll file those down. And here's your guys' bonus clip. Then we got this guy. I did pretty good with him. I did actually phenomenal with him, if I do say so myself. He's nasty, but he's cool too. I'm outside, the acrylic litter don't matter. This one, I've done this mold before. It's a little bit more of a challenge to get up and out, but we're looking good. He's not poking through any of the sides. Ugh. Yep. And there he is. All creepy, nasty. Ooh, that's a nice shot. I wish I would have paid more attention to his front legs. More so leg, that one right there. But overall, for the first try of using the vacuum pump on this guy, it's fairly centered. That ain't too bad. Not too bad. All right, thanks for watching.